Hi guys, welcome to Money Theory. In today's video, we're going to talk about economic policy. Playing God with the economy. Wait, don't go yet. I know that economics and law can be both boring. We're going to talk about policy, laws, and Congress, and economics and GDP. But this is very important. These policies affect the value of your currency through inflation. And this also affects the nation's budget. And it affects you directly through taxes. And a healthy economy is key for maintaining jobs and businesses. First, let's talk about the market cycle. The market cycles between booms and busts. These periods are also called growth and recession. During the growth period, there are new jobs, new businesses, and people have more money to spend for fun things like traveling. During a recession, companies go out of businesses, people lose jobs, and people are tight on money, so they focus on necessities like food and shelter. Take a look at the graph on the right. This is a market cycle, and you can see the period of the boom going up, and then a recession going down, and then it repeats. The cycle repeats, but the length of the time and the height of the booms and busts are not always the same. So we don't know exactly where we are in the cycle until the phase is already over. So it's difficult to time the market. Next, let's talk about how the government can control the cycle. This is through expansionary policy, and when that happens, the economy and the stocks go up, and during contractionary policy, the economy and the stocks go down. Examples of this are when the government gives money to the people, or when the Fed starts tapering. Where in the cycle also matters for how the government does these policy. Procyclical is when you are making growth periods larger and the recession periods also larger. Whereas countercyclical makes the periods smaller, so there's smaller growth and smaller recessions. So it's more stable and consistent. Take a look at the graph on the right. The red is a normal market cycle. The blue is a procyclical period, where you can see that the highs are higher and the lows are lower. And the green is countercyclical, where you can see that the highs are smaller and the lows are also smaller. Now we can talk about monetary and fiscal policy. Monetary policy focuses on the money supply, and this is from the Federal Reserve. You might have heard the phrase, money printer go brr, and they also control the interest rates. Fiscal policy is related to the national budget. This is controlled by Congress through their budget plans. And the famous example is through stimmy checks and government spending and their tax revenue. So here's a simple chart to explain how these policies can affect the economy. And they have different types that can create inflation or deflation. With monetary policy, it becomes inflationary when they increase the money supply through quantitative easings and when they decrease interest rates. The opposite occurs when they are doing quantitative tightening and when they raise interest rates. That creates a deflation. And during inflation, economy and stocks go up, whereas deflation, the economy and stock go down. Now let's look at fiscal policy. This is during inflationary periods, they are lowering taxes and they're increasing spending. During deflationary periods, they are raising taxes and they also decrease spending. Now let's focus on loose monetary policy. This is how we create inflation. Quantitative easing means that they increase the money supply when the money printer go brr. This makes it easier for banks to lend money. They also purchase bonds, which lowers the bond yields, and that increases the stocks in bonds. They also lower interest rates. That also makes it easier for banks to lend money. Money therefore becomes cheaper, so people take up more loans. Examples of that is student loans, business loans, or even a home mortgage. And with the increased money supply, think of that traditional supply and demand curve. When you increase the supply, the price goes down. So the lower value of money, the price of everything else goes up. In finance, things are relative. So the prices of goods are relative to the value of the dollar. So when the price of the money goes down, everything else becomes more expensive. This is the official money supply and demand chart. This correlates the quantity of money with interest rates. When you increase the supply of money, the supply curve that is vertical shifts to the right from S1 to S2. And you can see that the interest rate also decreases. So, in summary, the increased money supply is accompanied with lower interest rates. And as you can see, during the COVID crisis, the Fed has been doing loose monetary policy. This has been increasing demand and increasing prices. And you'll notice that through the housing market. The prices shot up significantly during COVID. Now there's the opposite policy, tight monetary policy, and this decreases deflationary pressure, which causes stocks and the economy to go back down. Examples of these actions are quantitative tightening. This decreases the money supply, and this also makes it harder for banks to lend money. They also sell bonds, raising the bond yields, and that creates the bonds and stocks to decrease. The other main action is to raise interest rates. This also makes it harder for banks to lend money. Money therefore becomes more expensive, and people take up less loans. And recently, as the Fed has begun tightening policy through tapering, you can see that demand has been dropping. And they've also been raising interest rates. So you've noticed that homes have recently been in lower demand. Now let's talk about fiscal policy. The inflationary form is loose fiscal policy. Remember the formula, revenue minus spending equals savings. And this is how the government is balancing its budget, or not very monitoring its budget. So during loose fiscal policy, they lower taxes and they also increase spending. This boosts the economy, but this also increases the government debt. Recent examples are the massive Paycheck Protection Program. The opposite is tight fiscal policy, which creates a deflationary pressure. When spending is more than the revenue, that means that the government has debt. To get out of debt, they can either increase revenue or decrease spending. However, you and I both know that they don't know how to manage wasteful expenses. All they only know how to do is increase taxes. Recent records show at the end of 2021, the government had $28 trillion in debt. And examples of deflationary fiscal policy is to increase taxes. Spending has not decreased yet, though. Here are examples. There are discussions about raising the tax rates. Recently, they've been raising the corporate tax rate from 21 to 28%. And they also want to create a new tax for millionaires. And specifically in California, there is a gas tax. The inflation that we're experiencing is caused by the current policies that our government has been doing. Another bonus lesson is that taxes are inflationary in nature. Increasing taxes make things more expensive. For example, with the gas tax, it makes gas more expensive, and thus transporting goods more expensive. This creates an increased cost of goods for companies, and they push that increased cost to the consumer products. Hi guys, I hope you enjoyed our video. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. And if you'd like to support our channel, you can check out our Patreon. Also check out our other YouTube channel and Instagram. Thanks for watching.